Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the owner and founder of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and today I really want to talk about resentment in relationships. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the different attachment styles and how this impacts all of them. First, before I start, I want to just say thank you for all of the likes, the shares, the subscribes, like all of the emails I'm getting, the wonderful questions, all the inquiries, like just amazing. Thank you so much. And it's super exciting to see because I love creating these videos, so it's wonderful. I have exciting news. So I am going to be launching, we're in the process right now of creating a ton of online courses. And so if you go to the Personal Development School website, we're targeting so many different areas of struggle in the lives of individuals. We're creating courses that are specifically targeting these areas at a subconscious level. So if you go to the Personal Development School website, under the transformational courses page, you'll see all of the exciting courses we have coming up, and they will be launching by August of this year. So just a couple months away. And I'm also running live, like with myself and interacting with different individuals on an emotional mastery and attachment course this summer. Not really a course, but like a class. So please feel free to connect and to sign up for that. And yeah, the seats probably won't last very long, so please stay connected there. Anyways, so let's get into the content for today. So what is resentment? And we could define resentment from like a very specific dictionary definition type of format, but I really want to define resentment for the purpose of this video and for learning as basically unmet needs plus a lack of communication equal resentment. Okay, so we feel resentful towards others when we don't have needs met, and then we also feel like those needs are not even understood or heard or seen or validated. And it's really painful. Resentment, there's like this quote, and I'm being super cliche by even resharing this quote, but it's such a beautiful and powerful thing. It's a Nelson Mandela quote, and he says, you know, keeping resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And the message in that is so powerful because it's like resentment hurts us. And if you're carrying resentment, it's your poison you're carrying around. And your emotions are your emotions, right? Which means you want to deeply dig into them and understand them. Why am I carrying negative emotions and what can I do about it so that I can set myself free? And this is extremely important. And I'm going to do a whole other video about that specifically. But here's the thing. When you enter into a relationship, one of the most important things that you can keep with you and understand about a relationship is that we all live in our own internal reality. Every person's mind is like their own world, full of their own thoughts and beliefs and emotions and actions and programs and perceptions. And what makes us really feel connected in relationships, one of the core things, is they feel like their internal reality is understood and validated by their partner. And when we start to lose that, when resentment comes into place and we're not trying to understand each other's perspectives, or we're not feeling like our own perspectives are understood, that's when we have chaos and resentment and fighting and conflict. And so often I see people who think that they're arguing about right or wrong, and really they're just trying to get their perspectives seen, heard, understood, and validated. And they're actually looking, so often in arguments, people are actually looking to connect, and they're getting lost along the way. And so they'll get caught on like, no, I'm right. And really they're just looking for you to say like, oh, I understand why you're in pain. That makes sense. And I don't want you to be in pain, but your pain makes sense to me. I can understand you. And I'll watch couples that I work with, like they'll go through these back and forths, and I'll get them to the point of just validating each other's perspectives. That's it. Just validating that I can see why you're in pain. I understand your perspective, where you're coming from. Not the details about what's right and wrong, but just your perception in this situation. And right away, couples are like so connected again, just through that piece. So that piece is so important. So I want to talk for the next little bit about how do we get there, and what are the steps. And I'm actually going to have a process for you at the end that clearly outlines some of these steps that we can take to actually release resentment. Okay, so and this is within the relationship dynamic. If you're out of a relationship and this is something else, I'll do a separate video for that, but this is specific to in a romantic relationship and in this dynamic. Okay, so number one, you want to understand that feeling misunderstood equals disconnection. Okay, so if you're feeling misunderstood by your partner, you also feel disconnected from your partner. They're almost one and the same in the context of a romantic relationship. So, how do we get understood? Well, we have to have two motivating factors in mind at almost all times. And this is we want to learn how to be understood, and we have to express ourselves and our needs in order to do that. And we have to be willing and open and motivated, really, to try to understand our partner's perspective. And some people will like go, oh no, I shouldn't because my partner's been terrible to me. And this is for you. Okay, you understanding why somebody caused you pain or hurt is actually one of the only things that effectively relieves that conflict. Okay, like I'll say this all the time and I'll say it again right now. The only thing that substitutes for inner conflict or conflict in the relationship dynamic is understanding. Okay, and I'll give you an example here for a second. So let's say there's a dismissive avoidant attachment style person and an anxious attachment style person. And let's say the dismissive avoidant, they come home from work, let's say they live together. And the dismissive avoidant, let's say he's the male, comes home from work and he's a bit more introverted. And let's say that he needs space. And so, the male comes home from work and he just needs space and time. And so he sort of like pushes back and this has nothing to do with his feelings about his anxious partner. But the partner, when they don't deeply, truly know and understand that, they create meaning around it. We're constantly trying to interpret things with by making emotional inferences. We try to infer things emotionally, like make assumptions, actually as a means of trying to sort of self-protect and understand our environment around us. But usually this does a lot more harm than good in our adult lives. So the anxious partner might go, oh, he got home from work and he doesn't want to talk to me. He doesn't want to spend time with me or be present with me. He must not love me. I must not matter to him. I must be unwanted. And this won't be necessarily the exact assumption they'll make, but I bet a lot of people can relate to this who have been in that anxious space before. And you give it meaning and you personalize it through that emotional inference. And then you're in pain because you didn't understand. Okay, so there's value for you in trying to understand even when that person has hurt you. And that's a really important perspective to adopt because it gives you that control and it's actually what reconnects you to your partner as well. So now the flip side of this, right, is if you are the person who is anxious and you just had that experience, you also need to be understood. But by just getting angry and then let's say you lash out at your partner or you get upset at your partner or you try to create these needy activating strategies to get your partner closer to you, or you try to make your partner jealous, or you try to, none of those things are actually allowing you to be understood at all. Your partner is just going to see that and go, what is this person doing right now? Like they're just being chaotic and I don't like it. And they're not going to understand either. So we need both. Okay. So number one, the first thing you want to do, and you'll hear me say this in different places, is you want to explain. So number one, I feel, and you want to insert just your emotion. If you say, I feel like you don't care about me, or I feel like you just took the emotional piece and you just turned it into blame. Okay. And the reason that you want to have an I feel statement and insert just the emotion is it's the only way you actually get heard. The only way. Okay. Why? Because as soon as you start blaming every person who went through the system of classical conditioning, the system we were all socialized into, when you were a child and somebody criticized you or blamed you, it was usually followed by shaming or punishment. So your subconscious mind and your nervous system, as soon as you feel blamed or criticized, you go into defense mode or self-protection mode. And that's going to consistently, when you think that you're defending, you're not listening. So if somebody comes to you and says, I feel like you did this wrong and this was upsetting and you shouldn't have done that, like right away, you're too busy protecting yourself to hear what your partner is saying. But if your partner comes to you and says, hey, I feel hurt because this situation happened and this is what I needed in the situation. And, I want to understand your perspective and why you did that. You don't give room for the person to go into defensiveness mode, which means you actually have a chance at getting your needs understood, your feelings heard, and your perspective validated. And unless you're batting like 95 plus in this process, then you're still going to set off your partner, but it's the only real way that we can effectively communicate and have all of those 3 boxes checked. So it's worth practicing, and it's not difficult. Okay, so the process itself would be, number 1, I feel blank, and you insert the emotion, and you want to be as vulnerable as possible here. Number 2, you say because, and you insert a little bit of context about the experience, but don't go into too much detail. Try to make it a sentence or 2. Okay, and number 3, I need, an insert what you need, okay, and get as specific as possible. And number 4, I want to understand why you did what you did. I'd love to hear about your feelings and needs in this context. Okay, so you're seeking to understand. So you start off with that vulnerability of self-expression, and remember, what is resentment? Well, it's an unmet need and a lack of communication. So this process gets all of it together, okay? So you've got the I feel, and so you're communicating, you're expressing your need, okay? You're explaining a little bit about why you feel the way that you feel and how you took it from your perspective, okay? Not because it's the ultimate reality, but from your perception. This is what you experienced. And then you turn it around and you say, I want to understand what in you created that. So let's go back to that example of the dismissive avoidant partner. Let's say the anxious person personalizes it and they go, hey, I feel hurt because when you walked in, you went straight to the room and didn't connect with me. And I needed some self-connection, not self-connection. I needed some intimacy or connection. I needed your presence for 5 minutes. And, I want to understand why you did that. Did I do something that upset you? Are you carrying something around? Did you have a bad day? I want to understand. And the gentleness and vulnerability and just authenticity in that approach, it doesn't leave much room for conflict. Like if you're doing this effectively and consistently and your partner's starting conflict out of it, then you're probably with the wrong person, because anybody who has an ounce of care for you when you take this approach will show up well in response. Okay, and they may not know how to do it at first, and they might be a little bit confused, but they won't be attacking back, because you won't attack somebody who's vulnerable that you care about when they are opening to you like that. Okay, and so the person might say back, well, I felt really stressed at work today, and because my boss got angry at me, and I just needed some space to process. And it's from this place that you can actually make effective compromises where both of your needs are met. So that conversation might turn into, okay, I hear that you need a little bit of space right now. I'll give you some time. And when you're done, like, I understand that you're stressed at work. When you're done, I need my needs met for connection. And so can you then come back and try to be present with me? And it's from this space that compromise can actually happen. Okay, and the compromise is real and genuine and true, and it's not at the expense of anybody, at the expense of either party. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I will post a worksheet for this on my website. I'll post it under the blog section. Because I'm constantly being asked for these worksheets and all this amazing stuff. So thank you, because I love to share all these tools. And yeah, to summarize there, like, that process allows for understanding, being understood, and it's the expression of needs so that you can get your needs met, and consistent communication. And again, the root cause is a lack of needs being met and a lack of communication. Okay, so it sort of summarizes all of those pieces. And again, resentment is not something you want to be carrying around. And as tough as this work might be to do, because it feels scary at first, because when we're children and we try to express our needs and communicate, it's often met with pain or rejection or dismissal, because our parents are like, no, it's not safe to walk to your friend's house by yourself, or it's not okay to do this, and we're being socialized. But the only way we heal from some of those challenging imprints is to start taking action now around the things and healing those things now that caused pain in the past. So thank you so much for watching. If you're getting a lot of value out of these videos, please like them, share them, subscribe to my channel, and please visit www.personaldevelopmentschool for any inquiries, upcoming exciting courses, transformational courses. Get on the wait list to reserve your early bird prices. And thank you again for connecting.